What do you lack? Do you know why it is that the Bolsheviki are so opposed to religion? Because religion, as it is commonly accepted, teaches man resignation to conditions as they are, teaches in effect that God created some men poor and some rich, that this unequal distribution is a perfectly natural thing, and that we must not rail against it, because it will all be made right in the next world. If one man is starving near another who is making himself sick by eating too much, how can you expect to keep the starving one resigned to his fate unless you teach him it will all be made right in some indefinite future state? Organized society could not exist without some being rich and some poor, and to keep the poor satisfied, there must be an authority to declare, God wills it thus. But just be patient. In the hereafter all this will be different. You will be the ones to occupy the places of honour. Religion, in other words, as it is ordinarily taught, is a fine thing to keep the common people satisfied. But Christianity was never meant for a weapon to keep the rich wealthy and secure, and the poor satisfied and in their proper place. On the contrary, Christianity as taught by Jesus opened the way to all good, and Christianity as it was practiced in its early years was an idealized form of socialism that benefited each and all. No one was wealthier than his neighbours, but neither was any poverty-stricken. Theirs was the creed of the Three Musketeers, all for one and one for all. Ask and ye shall receive, said Jesus. Seek and ye shall find. That was not directed to the rich alone. That was to all men. Providence has never made a practice of picking out certain families or certain individuals and favouring them to the detriment of other people, much as some of our leading families would have us believe it. It is only man that has arrogated to himself that privilege. We laugh now at the divine rights of kings. It is just as ridiculous to think that a few have the right to all the good things of life, while the many have to toil and sweat to do them service. To quote Rumbold's last words from the scaffold, I never could believe that Providence had sent a few men into the world, ready booted and spurred to ride, and millions ready saddled and bridled to be ridden. There is nothing right in poverty. Not only that, but there is nothing meritorious in poverty. The mere fact that you are poor and ground down by fear and worry is not going to get you any forwarder in the hereafter. On the contrary, your soul is likely to be pinched by want, too starved and shrivelled to be able to expand. The kingdom of heaven is within you. To me, that means that heaven is here and now, that if we want any happiness from it, we've got to get it as we go along. I've never been much of a believer in accepting these promissory notes of happiness. Every time one of them falls due, you find you just have to renew it for another 6 months or a year, until one of these days you wake up and find that the bank has busted, and all your notes are not worth the paper they are written on. The purpose of existence is growth. You can't grow spiritually or mentally without happiness. And by happiness, I don't mean a timid resignation to the will of God. That so-called will of God is more often than not either pure laziness on the part of the resigned or pure cussedness on the part of the one that is putting something over on him. It is the most sanctimonious expression yet devised to excuse some condition that no one has the energy or the ability to rectify. By happiness I mean the everyday enjoyment of everyday people. I mean love and laughter and honest amusement. Every one of us is entitled to it. Every one of us can have it, if he has the will and the energy to get out and get it for himself. Joyless work, small pay, no future, nothing to look forward to. God never planned such an existence. It is man-made, and you can be man enough to unmake it as far as you and yours are concerned. God never made any man poor, any more than he made any man sick. Look around you. All of nature is bountiful. On every hand you see profusion in the trees, in the flowers, in everything that he planned. The only law of nature is the law of supply. Poverty is unnatural. It is man-made. Through the limits man puts upon himself. God never put them there any more than he showed partiality by giving to some of his children gifts and blessings which he withheld from others. His gifts are just as available to you as to any man on earth. The difference is all in your understanding of how to avail yourself of the infinite supply all about you. Take the worry clamps off your mentality and you will make the poverty clamps loosen up from your finances. Your affairs are so closely related to your consciousness that they too will relax into peace, order, and plenty. Divine ideas is your spiritual consciousness, will become active in your business and will work out as your abundant prosperity. As David V. Bush says in Applied Psychology and Scientific Living, thoughts are things. Thoughts are energy. Thoughts are magnets which attract to us the very things we think. Therefore, if a man is in debt, he will, by continually thinking about debt, bring more debts to him. For thoughts are causes, and he fastens more debts onto himself and actually creates more obligations by thinking about debts. Concentrate and think upon things that you want, not on things which you ought not to have. Think of abundance, of opulence, of plenty, of position, harmony and growth. And if you do not see them manifested today, they will be realized tomorrow. If you must pass through straits of life where you do not outwardly see abundance, know that you have it within and that in time it will manifest itself. I say, if you concentrate on debt, debt is what you will have. If you think about poverty, poverty is what you will receive. It is just as easy when once the mind becomes trained to think prosperity and abundance and plenty, as it is to think lack, limitation and poverty. Prosperity is not limited to time or place. It manifests when and where there is consciousness to establish it. It is attracted to the consciousness that is free from worry, strain and tension. So never allow yourself to worry about poverty. Be careful. Take ordinary business precautions, of course, but don't center your thought on your troubles. The more you think of them, the more tightly you fasten them upon yourself. Think of the results you are after, not of the difficulties in the way. Mind will find the way. It is merely up to you to choose the goal and then keep your thought steadfast until that goal is won. The greatest shortcut to prosperity is to live it. Prosperity attracts. Poverty repels. To quote Orison Swett Marden, to be ambitious for wealth and yet always expecting to be poor, to be always doubting your ability to get what you long for, is like trying to reach east by travelling west. There is no philosophy which will help a man to succeed when he is always doubting his ability to do so, and thus attracting failure. Again, no matter how hard you may work for success, if your thought is saturated with the fear of failure, it will kill your efforts, neutralize your endeavours, and make success impossible. The secret of prosperity lies in so vividly imagining it in your own mind that you literally exude prosperity. You feel prosperous, you look prosperous, and the result is that before long, you are prosperous. I remember seeing a play a number of years ago that was based on this thought. A young fellow, a chronic failure, was persuaded by a friend to carry a roll of $1,000 counterfeit bills in his pocket and to show them unostentatiously when the occasion offered. Of course, everyone thought he had come into some legacy. The natural inference was that anyone who carried $50,000 or $100,000 bills in his pockets must have a lot more in the bank. Opportunities flocked to him, opportunities to make good, opportunities to make money. He made good, without having to spend any of this spurious money of his. For most business today is done on credit. I know many wealthy men who seldom carry anything but a little change in their pockets for tips. Everything they do, everything they buy is charged, and big deals are put through in the same way. If a man is believed to have plenty of money, if he has a reputation for honesty and fair dealing, he may put through a transaction running into 6 or 7 figures without paying 1 cent down. The thing that counts is not the amount of your balance at the bank, but what others think of you, the image you have created in your own and in others' minds. What do you lack? What thing do you want most? Realize that before it or any other thing can be, it must first be imaged in mind. Realize too that when you can close your eyes and actually see that thing, you have brought it into being. You have drawn upon that invisible substance all about you. You have created something. Hold it in your thought. Focus your mind upon it. Believe that you have it, and you can safely leave its material manifestation to the genie of your mind. God is but another name for the invisible, everywhere present, and source of things. Out of the air the seed gathers the essences which are necessary to its bountiful growth. Out of the invisible ether our minds gather the rich ideas that stimulate us to undertake and to carry out enterprises that bring prosperity to us. Let us see with the eye of the mind a bountiful harvest, then our minds will be quickened with ideas of abundance, and plenty will appear, not only in our world, but also everywhere. As the rain cometh down, and the snow from heaven, and returneth not thither, but watereth the earth, and maketh it bring forth and bud, and giveth seed to the sower, and bread to the eater, so shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it. Isaiah chapter 55, verses 10 to 11.